and welcome back to Mother Tongue, your eyes, ears, and finger on the pulse for all parents around the world. Let's get going, shall we? Let's do this. We are so incredibly excited to welcome Charlie Barker back to Mother Tongue. Charlie, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. And it feels so nice to be back because each time I've come on to chat, I've been in like a different life situation.
Well, I feel like every single time you come back to chat, you've had another baby. So we're now on to
and
number
that's
3.
going to stop. That's going to stop now. This is the last time having another baby. I've now got 3.
I can't believe that. Oh my God, I want to know everything because I feel like this is going to be me in 6 months' time. And yeah, I can't quite work out if I'm absolutely terrified or beyond delighted. There's a real mixed opinion out there of adding a third is like the hardest work in the entire world. And then other people say, well, you've got 2 already, like adding a third is nothing. Tell me.
Yeah. I mean, I was, when I was pregnant with her, I sort of was saying to people, I only want to hear you if you're going to be nice and positive. I'm already pregnant, so don't try and scare me off because it's already happening. And then I saw these things that kept getting sent to me on Instagram, like having 1 child is like 1 child, having 2 is like 2, and having 3 is like having 800 donkeys and your house is on fire. And I was like, that's not helpful, but it's not like that. I was saying to you off air that because my eldest 2 are 4 this weekend and then 2.5, and actually they are still what tire us out the most. Obviously, I'm not getting my full night's sleep, so I'm tired from lack of sleep. But it's still the toddlers that are the hard work. The baby just slots in because she just has to. So unfortunately for her naps get cut short all the time. She gets put in the carrier all the time. She gets taken to nursery. She just has to figure out life as the younger sister, really. But I don't think it's like triply as hard, if that makes sense. I think going from 1 to 2 is a big shock because you have to learn how to juggle and you have to learn how to be in 2 places at once. And so when the third comes along, you know how to juggle. You have to learn how to juggle a new thing, a new setup. But for me, it wasn't as much of a shock to the system having the third. I trusted my mum instincts more, so I was less anxious about the baby. I just sort of was like, okay, this is it now. It's going to be chaos for a while, and we'll figure it out. And I love it. I really love it.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes me feel better because I'm a little terrified. I've kind of got into that mode now. I'm heading up to midway, and I'm now like, right, we must do things like potty train Isla. I still refer to Isla as the baby, and she's nearly 2.5, which I really
Barney's not potty trained. Barney, I thought I was going to do the same. I was like, we must do it before we go. But he is such a boy, from what I've heard. He will literally wear a poo in his nappy for hours. And I say to him, have you done a poo? And I can see it hanging down out of his nappy. And he says, no, I haven't. And he wanders around with it dangling between his legs, and he doesn't care. So I asked nursery the other day, do you think he's ready? And they were like, absolutely not. So I wouldn't rush it.
No.
I mean, having the newborn isn't going to stop you. Oh, she's ready, then fine. If she's ready, then do it.
I feel like we're kind of at that point now where she's ripping her nappy off all the time, and I'm just and instead of finding a potty, she'll, like a dog, she'll just go and squat in the garden, and I'm like, oh, okay, sure. She's like, oh, wee. I'm like, great.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, she's ready. Barney will sit on the potty every night before bath, and he doesn't do a single drop of wee, and he stands up and he goes, ta-da! So we're not ready over here.
Boys versus girls. I promise you.
Yeah.
You wait. We've got this all to come. It's actually, so many people say, oh, my boy and my girl are so similar, and they've kind of progressed exactly the same. I think it's totally different. I mean, they are polar opposite children. It's like they've come from different planets. I mean,
but even my 2 boys are polar opposite.
Really?
So you might find this, that you're a boy. Yeah, they're so different. Alfie, I don't know whether it's because he's the first child or just his personality. He's much more sensitive, much more emotional. He feels things very deeply, and he gets very upset, but then also very excited, and all the emotions are very, very, very. Whereas Barney's a lot more plain sailing and just takes things on the chin and if Alfie gets a paper cut, my God, do we need to go to hospital to fix him? Whereas if Barney gets thumped on the head by something, he just wipes it off and off he goes again. It's just like they couldn't be more different.
I swear this is the second child because this is the same as ours. Very emotional, very attached to mummy.
Yeah.
Everything is a drama. And the second is, I mean, she couldn't give a crap. She's literally like, yeah, I'm
Yes.
fine. Leave me alone. Bye bye.
I know. Barney's settling in days at nursery. He's like, "Why are you still here, mummy? Why are you here?" And Alfie's like, "Don't leave me! Oh my God!" So we've got Alfie's starting school in September, so that's gonna be fun. Whereas Barney's like, "When am I going?" I'm like, "Not for 2 years, my friend."
Yeah, you've got a while. You're still with me. Lucky you, honey.
Exactly.
So tell me about this most recent pregnancy. So this season we are talking all about pregnancy, and I love hearing about people's pregnancy and birth stories. And obviously this was your third, so I'd love to know how this pregnancy and birth differed from your previous ones with the boys.
So actually, the pregnancy was different from the very beginning. Like even the
Really?
day I found out I was pregnant. So it was a surprise pregnancy, we should say. We
Oh
had
wow.
literally last summer we had a conversation about July, August time, saying, "Do you know what? I really love having the two boys. We've finally got our lives back a bit. They're both in nursery. We're really loving it at the moment. Should we just wait like a whole nother year before we even start trying for a third?" We both said, "Yeah, great idea." And I think we must have conceived like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So it was a big surprise. And after we must have conceived, where I think we did, we then went on holiday to the south of France, and we were staying on a vineyard. And my dad was there, and he kept every time I looked to my left or right, there was a glass of wine. And so I drank a lot of wine that week. And I just was thinking to myself, God, I feel rough. Like I clearly can't handle it anymore. Like I really, really felt sick the whole week. And then on the flight home, I'd been sort of thinking it. And then George said, "You weren't ovulating this last week or whatever, were you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I was." And he said, "No, you can't be pregnant, can you?" And I said, "You know what? I am wondering." And so we got home the next day, I got a test. And so I was already feeling nauseous. It was crazy. I got a
Wow.
test, and my period wasn't due for like 5 or 6 more days. I did the test, and I was sad because it was the first time I didn't want it to be positive. And I did the test, walked away, like had a shower or something, came back, and I turned it over, and I was on my own, and I just had my head in my hands, and I just stared at it, and I just thought, my whole life has just changed in that 1 second, and I need to process this. And so I went downstairs, just shoved the test in his face. I should have filmed it because it was really funny. He was eating a piece of toast, and he just dropped it to the floor. He was like, "No." And the two boys were like, "What? What?" We were just like, "Nothing." We were just hysterically laughing because we were so like in shock. And we got in the car to go to the playground or whatever. Probably that's where we do go with two kids. And Alfie, out of the blue, because we hadn't said anything, he said to us, "Mummy, there's a gap in the middle of our two car seats, so if you want, we could just put a baby in there." And this was maybe 1 hour maximum after we just found out. And we were
No.
like, "Oh my God." And then straight away on the radio came Lionel Richie, "Once, Twice, Three Times a Lady." And I was like, "Oh my God." So it took us a really long time to settle into the idea. Like I'd say until 12 weeks. I was like,
Yeah.
can't accept it. I can't accept it. But I did start to feel rough. And with Alfie, I had no sickness. With Barney, I thought I had morning sickness, and I had like 2 days of feeling a bit rough. This time, the whole first trimester, it started around the day I found out I was pregnant, but it got worse and worse and worse. And parenting two kids was really hard, as I'm sure you're finding. In the first trimester, I was like, I can't do this. How can we go to soft play? And I remember having to like take them with me out of soft play to the toilet because I'm like, I'm going to be sick, but I can't leave them in here. So come on, boys. They're like, no. I'm like, come on, let's go and see mummy being sick in the loo.
My
And
God.
it was full on. But
Yeah.
we had said, we're going to find out the gender this time because we didn't the last two times. We said we're going to find it out because once we told Alfie we were having a baby, he was like, "It's a sister." And he told everyone, "I'm having a sister." And we were like, it might be a brother. And he was like, no, 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 I'm not having another brother. It's a sister.
Okay, that's
I know.
amazing.
And he had some sixth sense. He knew I was pregnant. He knew it was a girl. So we ended up finding out just before our 20-week scan, because it was about to be Christmas and we were going to see all our family and we thought it'd be nice to do. And I had a feeling my skin had been bad, and I generally have okay skin, and I didn't have that in the last 2 pregnancies. So I was having a few breakouts in my skin. I felt sick still all the way up until like 18 weeks. I was like, I
Mm.
just didn't have this before. I just didn't have it. And in the scan, George didn't want the sonographer to tell us because he was like, I don't know, I feel like it's a big moment. I don't want to find out in front of a stranger. So she wrote it in a card. We got out of the appointment and we made it to the car. And he was like, we've got to open it. Oh, we've got to open it right now. So ended up opening it in the car and had like a little moment. And it was so lovely. She just wrote, it's a girl, congratulations. And so then I rushed home. I had got some cupcakes that we'd had at a party on the weekend, and I scooped the middle out and I made some pink icing and I put it in and put the top on. It's a really makeshift gender reveal. When we got the boys back from nursery, they bit into the cupcake and Alfie was beyond happy. He was like, it's a girl! He was like, this is my dream come true. I'm going to have a sister. And he in the last year has decided that pink's his favourite colour. He loves unicorns. He loves all things sparkles. As well as being like a real football tractors trained boy, he has this really like in touch with his feminine side. And I think that's why he was so over the moon to have a girl. And, you know, even now when I dress her in something that's got flowers on or whatever, he's like, oh, I love her outfit, mummy. Like he just loves the girl stuff. So yeah, he was very excited. Barney didn't really get it. We gave him the little cake and he tried to blow out the candle, which there wasn't one. He just thought it was like a birthday cake. So he was just like, oh wow, cool, a cake. But yeah, even up until the end it was different. So I had the bump was the bump lower or higher? The bump was higher. So I felt really breathless from really early on. I didn't feel any pain down in my pelvis till much, much later, which was different. And the whole thing just felt like a different pregnancy, which was, once I knew it was a girl, I was like, that's why, I'm sure. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's because I'm older and my body's done this 3 times and it's tired and all these things, but it did feel different all the way.
Well, you know what? It's interesting you say that because I I've had the same. This pregnancy has been by far the hardest pregnancy I've had so far. Um, from a morning sickness point of view, just from a sickness in general. I mean, I feel like I've literally only just turned a corner with the sickness. And I had a really easy pregnancy with Rafa. Isla was pretty brutal, being a girl pregnancy. It was really hard. Um, and someone said to me the other day, it's because you're now considered geriatric. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm 34. Like, am
I
I
think it's
geriatric?
30. I think it's from 35 because or maybe 36. I just fell under the category and I'm going to be 36 in December. So I think you're not geriatric, but maybe in Dubai the rules are different. But it's crazy because actually we're not old to have a baby, but compared to having one when you're 30, 31, it's different. And you're now running after toddlers, so you don't get to rest. The kids don't have any respect for the fact you're pregnant. So it just is harder for that reason. I was just like, I am shattered. I can't string a sentence together, let alone play cards on the floor with my kids. I'm like, I just can't do it. I did a lot of what I call lying down parenting, where I would set up a game and I would just lie down. I'd let them roll cards up and down my legs. I would say, who can find me something that is blue? Go. And then I'd let them run around the house. And sometimes my husband would come home in the evenings and be like, what the hell happened to this house? I'm like, don't
Yeah.
even try it. I can't. So I think I just had to like let go of all expectations. And I was sad because I really wanted to love the pregnancy. And I got into it. I actually got into it more towards the end. But I found the first half really tough, really, really
Yeah.
tough. And I just felt guilty moaning about it because one, it was a surprise pregnancy, and I know that so many people were struggling, and I was like, how dare I not try to have a baby, get pregnant, and then moan about it? I was like, that's ridiculous. But actually, it's all valid. Everyone's feeling the valid. Plus, if you've listened to my previous episodes, you'll know that we really struggled to get pregnant with Alfie, or not to get pregnant, to sustain the pregnancy. And so the fact that we had a surprise pregnancy was just wild to us. And then I think part of me wasn't really ready to be pregnant. So when
Mm,
my body started changing, I really didn't like it because I wasn't prepared for it this time. I just got to feeling really fit and strong again, and I was really feeling great. And so I just was like, oh my God, I can't be bothered to do it again just yet. So it took me at least half the pregnancy to accept it,
yeah.
which sounds funny, but I think it's probably quite common, isn't it?
For sure, I felt that this time because our situation was a little different. I really pushed for this pregnancy. Something switched in my mind at the beginning of the year, and I started to think, oh, maybe I want another. We were always like two and done, had a boy, had a
I
girl.
remember.
Yeah, like finished, like very much so. And then it was just this niggle that kept growing in my mind. Anyway, my husband my husband agreed for a week that
And that
he
was
thought
it. Go.
good idea, and then that was it, and then he like retracted his statement, and then I was like, oh no, I think it might be too late, and he was like, not a chance. But I'd always said I really want to just enjoy this last pregnancy and really
Yeah.
relish in it, and all I've done is be miserable and grumpy and have no patience. Like my temper, like I feel like I snap at the simplest things, and he keeps saying, I thought you were going to enjoy this pregnancy. I'm like, do you understand how unhelpful that is right now? But
Wow.
yeah, I'm turning the corner, and I feel like now
Good.
I kind of feel more normal, and my exercise regime is back, and there's certain things that I feel like I can eat proper food again. I don't know.
Yeah. And
I
also once your bump starts to become an actual bump and it's not just
yeah,
like a bit big for your clothes, then you can start to be like, I'm pregnant, look at me. And
yeah,
you're not just like feeling frumpy and feeling sick. It's all rubbish at the beginning. It's not fun.
no,
And now you know it's a boy, you can start to bond a bit more with the idea. And I just think it just gets easier and easier until it gets harder at the very end, where you're like, I'm so heavy, I'm so tired. So you have that like window of happiness in the middle, which I think really helps you get through.
for sure, for sure. And I mean, so talking to the end, let's go to the end. Let's go to the birth. Was she early, on time, late?
She was, well, if I start from this bit, so I went to have my midwife appointment at like 34 weeks, I think. And she felt her, it wasn't a scan, it was just the midwife. And she was like, oh my God, the head is so engaged. And I was like, yes, I can tell you that because I've been waddling around. I can feel her head in my pelvis. And she was like, I don't think you're going to make 38 weeks. So I got really excited and also like, oh my God, got to get everything ready. And so in my head, I wish she hadn't said it, because in my head, I thought that was going to be when I was due, 38 weeks. So we got everything ready, packed the hospital bag, blah, blah, blah. 38 weeks passed, 39 weeks passed. And then I was like, oh my God. But actually, in between those 2 points, I had been sent for an extra scan because my bump was measuring small. Oh no, it hadn't grown over a week or something, and it was measuring small. And then I went for a scan, and funnily enough, she was measuring big, and they spotted that I had excess fluid in the bump. So I don't understand how the bump was measuring small if I had excess fluid and a big baby, but numbers didn't add up. But anyway, had this scan, which was actually really a bad idea because it sent a real spanner into the works. So they basically said, right, you need to go see a consultant because you've got this excess fluid.
Oh my God.
And then they tested me for diabetes. So for a week, I had to prick my finger after every meal. Then I started to think, oh my God, I've eaten too much chocolate in this pregnancy, which is 100% likely. And I've given myself diabetes. This is awful. And it turns out I didn't have diabetes. So that all came back negative. And I went back and I saw this lovely consultant who was like, look, sometimes it just happens. And if you hadn't have had that scan, you wouldn't even know. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that the baby's head stays engaged, because what they worry about with excess fluid is that if the head isn't that engaged and the waters break, the baby might land in the pelvis with the cord first.
Right.
So then they're worried about the cord wrapping around the neck and coming up first and all that. So she said, the head is so wedged in there, we're not worried about that. Every time they did any examinations, her head was not moving. So they were like, do you know what? We just don't want you to go over your due date, because We just don't. And I was very happy to not go over my due date. But I said to her, because my birth before, my second birth was really smooth, really quick, I don't really want to be induced because I know my body can do it really well without being interfered. So she said, because you're so engaged, I can already touch the head. So we won't induce you with any hormones. We will just break the waters. But let's give you 3 sweeps in week 39 and see if we can get things going. So she did the first sweep, and I'd never had sweeps before because I'd never been engaged, dilated at all. So I was already 1 centimetre, so she could do a sweep. Got home and I was like, she's coming tonight, da, 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 da. And then nothing happened. Then I went for a sweep 2 days later, came home, and I'm guessing there's no such thing as TMI on this podcast, is there?
Nope.
Came home and some of my mucus plug had came away. I was like, this is so exciting, because I'd been having like contractions for weeks, just like Braxton Hicks gone crazy for weeks. So I kind of was like, I don't know if I'm feeling anything or if it's just Braxton Hicks. They started ramping up and I was like, this is happening, and then it all just stopped again. So went for a third sweep, and this was a different midwife, and she was like, she did the sweep and then she was taking off her gloves and then looked at me with like a real smug look on her face, and I was like, what? She's like, I think I've done it. I think this is going to do the trick. She said, your waters are literally bulging. I had to like avoid nicking them. I was like, why didn't you just get this baby out? I was so uncomfortable by this stage. Anyway, went from there to collect the boys from nursery, and I was like, I am getting lots of tightenings, as they call them. Came home, put them to bed, gave them like an extra big kiss that night because I was like, I feel like something's going to happen tonight. We were having dinner, and my husband was on edge because he thought, because I had such a fast labour last time, he was like YouTubing how to deliver babies. He was so scared that he was going to have to do it. So I was like, I think it's happening tonight, but I don't want to tell him until I'm sure because he's going to freak out. So we were having dinner and I was like slyly timing these contractions. And we finished dinner and I was like, so I'm just going to text my mum, because the plan was to get my mum to come over.
Yeah.
And look after the boys in the night while we went in. And I was like, just going to text her. He was like, what? Stood up immediately. I was like, this is why I didn't say anything a few hours ago. Anyway, I called up the hospital and I said, listen, this sounds crazy because I'm talking to you and I'm totally fine, but I'm in labour, and last time it happened really, really quickly, and I don't want to give birth in my house and I don't want to give birth on the road. So what do you think? And she was like, ordinarily I'd be like, don't be so stupid, stay at home, but because of your history, let's get you in. So I went in, and I got in there, and I think because it was on my notes, like fast labour, I dilated basically in an hour last time, 1 to 10. So they were like, let's have a baby. I was like, fantastic, let's go in. Then she measured me, and she was like, so you're 4 centimetres dilated. I was like, oh, what? Are you joking? So I was like, please don't send me home, please. And she was like, no, we've got a room for you. You can stay here, that's fine. But you can't go in the water yet. We need you to be more established, because that was my dream. I wanted to get in the water. Yeah. So they left us in the room, and it was like 11 p.m. And I was so annoyed because, I wanted to go to sleep. I wanted to give birth all day. And then by the night time, I was like, I'm too tired now. I don't want to give birth now. So I was knackered. So we were like in this room. George kept falling asleep, and I kept being like, wake up, I'm having a contraction. And he was like, oh my God, Charlie, I'm so tired. And I had some, what did I have? Paracetamol. They were like, can I give you paracetamol? I'm like, yeah, but I'm in labour. I've not just got a headache. This is a lot more than this. But because I wanted to get in the water, I really held off on pethidine and all the other things because I knew that would slow down the process of me.
Oh, wait. You're back. Sorry.
Where did I freeze?
You were given the paracetamol and you said, I haven't got a headache.
Okay,
are you there?
You're quite frozen as well. Hang on. Yeah.
Oh my God, what's going on?
Let me cancel that. I just want to make sure that is turned off. Quit. I had some paracetamol, and then they were starting to ramp up, and I was like, this is great. And I sort of thought, they just get closer together, don't they? I can totally handle this. And you forget that they actually get more intense as well as more close together. So I was like, oh my God, called the midwife back in, and I was like, what can I have? Like, I need something else. And she was like, you can have pethidine, but that means you can't go in the water for 4 hours. And I was like, oh, I feel like I'm closer than 4 hours. I bloody hope I'm closer than 4 hours. So I was
Yeah.
like, don't worry, I'm not going to have anything. And then suddenly they took a turn. They ramped up, and George was like, something's changing. And so I asked the midwife, can I get in the water, please? And this older midwife came in and was like, I need to examine you. I was like, do you really? Like, I literally need to push this baby out. And this other midwife came in and was like, I'm just going to run the water. You definitely need to just push the baby out. So she examined me and she's like, yeah, she's 10 centimeters. My water's broke. I got in the pool and I had her, I think I was in there for 20 minutes and I had her in there. And it was, I mean, George actually filmed it all. He just put the phone up in the corner of the room. And I would actually really recommend people do this. It was quite far away, so it wasn't gory. There was no up close bits. You can't see anything, but you forget, don't you? You forget what's
Yeah.
happening. And so now I've watched it back and I'm like, oh my God, I said that, or I can't remember. The fan broke, the little portable fan. It ran out of battery, and I was like yelling at George because I was so cross that it ran out of battery. And you can see him in between contractions run to the charger, plug it in for 2 minutes, and then bring it back. And I was like, ah! So I would really recommend just putting your phone on record, putting it in the corner of the room, and just leaving it there. It was there for an hour. We've got an hour video. And so she came out and she was great. She didn't really cry. She didn't make much noise. She was very purple, and very swollen, I think, from all the excess fluid that she was in.
Yeah.
But everything was fine. I ended up having a very small stitch, but apart from that, it was a really drama-free birth, which was very lucky. And we ended up staying, she was born at 6 a.m, and we ended up staying in that room until 3 or 4 p.m. And then we went home and my mum picked the boys up from nursery and met us at home, and it was all a very sweet moment because they were just like kids on Christmas. They were so excited. It was lovely.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So you were in there for quite a long time. 11 till 6. Like, that's quite a long
Yeah.
time.
It was, and I should have laboured at home because that actually the beginning bit was slower. But with Barney, it was like 45 minutes, so I
Yeah.
couldn't take that risk. So actually, I
No,
could have laboured at home fine, but I was just so nervous that I wasn't going to make it.
I
And
don't blame
plus,
you.
I wouldn't have wanted to make any noises with the boys asleep in the next door room and whatever. So I was like, actually, I felt very safe being in hospital and knowing that the boys were with my mum. And I don't know, a lot of people say that the contractions slow down when they get to hospital. For me, it always ramps up because I feel like I'm here, I'm in the right place, all the drugs are here, the doctors are here, great. So yeah, it was fine. It was fine, but it was hell. And like, birth is just brutal, isn't it? But I think it took me like
Yeah.
one day, and then when I got home I was like, oh, it was magical, it was just amazing. But as I was doing it, I was like, this is it, this is our last baby, I'm never doing this again. um but when I brought her out, so she was passed to me through my legs, and she looked identical to Barney. I picked her up and I can hear on the camera now, I go, hello, Barney. It was so weird. She looks like a girl version of our youngest son. It's just bizarre. Identical.
Oh my God, it's so wild. See, hearing this makes me so excited to do it all over again.
You
And
should
I mean,
be. Also, we've got a blonde, a ginger, and she came out brunette. It was like, oh my
oh
God,
my
what?
God.
They kept coming in saying you need to put her hat on. And I was like, but we keep just looking at her hair. So every time they came in, we'd taken the hat off again to look at her hair. And they were like, you need to put the hat on.
Oh my God, so cute. Oh, it does bring it all back. I mean, people say you had that moment when the baby comes out and you think, this is my last, or this is not my last. Did you think, this is it?
Yeah.
I'm done now?
Do you know what? I actually thought that in the pregnancy. I was really worried I was never going to get that final feeling because I love babies so much. And in the pregnancy, I was like, I can't put my body through this again. This is a lot. And then when she was born, and she was quite a tricky baby for the first few weeks, only compared to Barney, because
Yeah.
Barney was the most chill baby known to man. So Barney never cried ever, like would sleep anywhere he was put, whereas Darcy is just like a normal baby and wants to be held a lot and cries sometimes. But I was like, oh my God, like she's the newborn I needed to have to stop me having any more babies. Barney was the tricky baby that tricked me into wanting more kids, I think. But Darcy, now she's 11 weeks tomorrow, and she is so chill now. She's like really like figured out the world. But the first 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, oh my God. If the boys were at nursery, she was fine. I could hold her, and she was beautiful baby
Yeah.
all day long. But when the boys are there and I had to put her down, it was like, oh my God, I don't know how to do bath time because she's awake, she's feeding. She was the newborn I needed to have. So I definitely have that finished feeling. But a few of my friends said they had that, and then it went away and they ended up wanting a fourth. But I think we really are done. I really do think we're done.
I'm going to send my husband for the snip because I think this is the only way to fully be like, right, that's it. You are finished, complete. Because I don't trust myself now. I think
I
I'll go back.
know.
Oh, well, maybe I want a fourth, and these are all the benefits of having 4 children. And no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
I
The thing
know. I
is you
know.
get all the bits, and you just remember the good bits and think, oh, but
You do,
future
exactly.
me.
Your brain completely blanks out the hard stuff, because already I'm like, the birth was fine. It's so empowering. I'd love to do it again. And actually it is.
Yeah.
It's so empowering, but I don't really want to do it again. You know what I mean? Like yeah, I feel like actually I'm really excited now. When I look around the room and we're all in it, I think this is our family now. And when I had Barney, I knew I wasn't done. I knew I wanted to have three. And when I look around now, like we were all sat at the table and she was in the little trip trap newborn thing. And I thought, I'm so excited that this is our family unit now. We're going to grow all together. And
Yeah.
no one knew's coming to, change things up or whatever. And so I feel like I'm getting more of those kind of feelings, and that I'm excited personally to feel fit and strong again, and then that be it. And then I just keep working on myself rather than think, oh, I'm going to go backwards again and then again. So I think on a lot of different levels, I'm done.
And I mean, speaking of fitness during this pregnancy, how was your kind of workout routine, workout experience during this pregnancy? Did you feel like you exercised a lot? Because obviously you are the queen of workouts,
Well, I
especially when
mean,
in postnatal. So, and I
yeah.
know you said that Barney was slightly harder than Alfie. So how did this compare? Did you manage to hold some form of routine?
Well, all the workouts that you're currently doing, I filmed them in the pregnancy, didn't I? So
Yeah.
I had to do everything. So it was hard because ordinarily I'd say to you, if you're having a rough week, then just don't worry. But because of my work, I had to find a way. So there was a lot of snacks eaten, a lot of sweets, to give me the energy on the days that I needed to film. I didn't have the energy. But I did a lot of swimming when I felt sick. That was one of the only things that I could do to take away the nausea. In the pool, I never felt sick. It was just such a relief. And then I'd get out and be like, oh, I feel gross again. But I definitely swam a few times a week through the whole pregnancy. And then I had weeks where I would go and I'd lift heavy weights and I'd feel amazing for it. And then weeks where I'd think, oh, I just want to lift light weights or do body weight or just swim that week. So it was so up and down. And I was much kinder to myself this time. I think before I'd been like, gotta keep it up, gotta keep it up. And now it's like, Charlie, your life is a workout. You've got 2 toddlers. Don't use up all that tiny energy you've got doing something that you don't have the energy for, because you need that energy to chase them around the playground later on. So I was
Yeah.
a lot kinder to myself, but I loved it when I had the energy to do those workouts. I felt really happy because I love doing them and it makes me feel really good. So I made sure to prioritize them on the weeks that I felt like I had the energy for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm honestly, I'm enjoying your workouts so much, and I love now that you've split them into the at-home workouts and then your gym program as well.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
means that I can also switch things up as and when I need a bit of, sometimes you just need a change of scene, because
Yeah.
the homework is great because I can literally be like, right, I've got 30 minutes here. Walk yourself into that room, get your dumbbells out, and go. And that's it. I don't need to think about anything else. I don't even need to be like dressed properly if I don't
No.
want to. Like, it's like just go and get it done. But then if I feel like I want a bit of a change of scene and I want to go to an actual gym and be around other people, because sometimes I feel like the vibe kind of picks you up a little bit and makes you more motivated to work out. I can still go and have a great workout, and I know that it's safe for whatever stage of pregnancy I'm at. And I know that I'm building things that I need to be building or keeping parts of my body strong for what is
Yeah.
to come. So I genuinely found them so great. And you know how
Oh,
I feel about exercise.
good.
I love exercise, and it's really weird. I don't know if you find this as well, but literally I don't know whether it's a mental thing or if it's an actual thing, but honestly, like a week after, not even a week, probably before I found out I was pregnant, my fitness levels just dropped off a cliff. I couldn't run.
Yeah.
I couldn't lift any weights. I was like, this is so weird. Something is wrong. Like I just couldn't do it. Like it was like my body wouldn't move. I couldn't like get up any momentum, any pace, nothing. And I mean, in the first 6 weeks, my fitness declined at a rate that I've never experienced in my life.
Well, also you get more breathless, and your body is like building a human, so suddenly you just have no energy, which is so normal. And that's why I've put in that plan, the rough day workouts, which are so chill. But on the days where you want to move your body, you know it's going to help you, but you really don't have the energy for much, and you might feel sick. So I've made sure there's no like up and down where you're going to get more nauseous. It's a lot of just like calm movements that actually might help make you feel a bit better. But
yeah,
I think you've just got to do the process, which is why I made sure I filmed it as my pregnancy progressed, so that I would really remember what I felt like, rather than, being in my non-pregnancy body being like, oh yeah, pregnancy's great, don't remember. Because often you'll hear me in there being like, oh, my pelvis is hurting, or I'm needing the loo all the time, and all these things, and you just forget them when you're not pregnant. So I made sure to film them along the pregnancy so that it was real, and I'm not like palming pregnant women off with workouts that are too hard or too the wrong kind of exercise at that stage.
yeah. No, that was the other thing that I thought was really good. Like you were very much there with me. So I just finished week 17 and you were 17 weeks pregnant. And I was like, well, this is great, except you looked fantastic and your bump looked so cute and neat. And third time round, we look about 7 months pregnant at, whatever I am, 4.5 months. I mean, it's bizarre. The bump is so big already. And I mean, I have just got back from Switzerland. So let's be honest, it's probably
Absolutely,
more
the
cheese
cheese.
and chocolate. Yeah, less baby. But yeah, why is it so important that we keep fit during our pregnancy? Because most people are like, oh, I'm pregnant now, I'm just gonna like lounge around and do nothing and just eat for
Well,
two.
that's also fine. You can do that. You can lounge around and do nothing and eat for two, and you will be fine. But as you know, when you have your baby, that's the smallest they will ever be, and they get bigger and bigger really quickly. And even when you're holding a newborn, your arms tire out because you hold them so tight and you don't want to drop them, and you hold them for hours and hours. So actually, from the second your baby is born, you're basically on a constant workout, whether it's lifting the car seat, whether it's, picking up your toddler whilst you're also trying to feed your baby. And there's never a time where you're not lifting anything. And I think the worst thing that can happen is that you injure yourself and then you really can't lift up your baby or the car seat or get them out of the bath and things like that. And so staying on top of it. So one, in your pregnancy, loads of stuff happens that changes in your body. And so if you start working on your strength, you'll be able to hopefully stay relatively comfortable throughout, and your body can adapt to these changes. Pregnancy isn't comfortable at some phases, but if you can give yourself the best chance of, combating those posture changes and things, then great. And then it's just gearing yourself up for birth, which is a marathon, and the recovery from birth, and then motherhood. So it's sort of like, if you came to me and said, I'm going to run a marathon in 9 months, what should I do? I wouldn't be like, oh, just chill, you'll be fine. Like, I'm going to run a marathon and then I'm going to lift weights for a year after that every day, all day. I'll be like, we need to train for this.
Yeah, we
So
do.
that's it. It's like, we just need, you're training for motherhood, for life.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And actually, also, I found that for both pregnancies, again, I mean, I didn't exercise loads and loads and loads. I mean, I've stopped running way earlier in this pregnancy than I did the other two. But I also found that it helped with birth, bizarrely. Like it gives you the training that you need to get through that slog. And I mean, I remember
Definitely.
like doing pelvic floor exercises and squats and strengthening that kind of region also just helped in general when it came to
It can't not help, can it? It
yeah,
can only give you a benefit. And also, I think it helps you mentally to know that you can get through a workout when you're feeling tired, but actually you can push a bit more.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
birth, you need that, like, that mental resilience, and just to know that, yep, come on, you can do this, keep
Can
going.
do it. I've got it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions around kind of pregnancy and the myths that come with it. And I'm going to start with miscarriage because even me, and I preach this, I know that exercise does not cause miscarriage. But because I've had miscarriages before, I always go into pregnancy being so cautious and always there's something in the back of my mind that's always like, oh, no, no, don't do that because it might cause miscarriage. Can you just tell us the relation between pregnancy and miscarriage and, sorry, exercise and miscarriage, and that it is a total myth?
Yeah, there isn't really a relation between exercise and miscarriage, because not a single type of exercise is going to cause a miscarriage. Miscarriages happen because the fetus, there's something wrong with the embryo or the fetus, and it wasn't meant to be. I mean, I guess if you were doing some sort of crazy marathon in the desert followed by X, Y, Z, and you depleted your body of all sources of nutrients, maybe that might contribute to it. But if you're going to do a HIIT workout, a class, a spin class, go running, you're not going to be causing a miscarriage. So please don't worry. But equally, if you don't feel comfortable exercising because you feel anxious, then don't put yourself through that. Wait till you feel more comfortable, you've had your scan, you start feeling kicks. There's no need to make yourself feel more anxious, because pregnancy comes with a lot of emotions and they're all valid. So if you do feel worried, that's fine. But just know that if you did some lunges, that's not going to cause a miscarriage. But it is. A lot of people think it. And even me, it's my job. I worried in my pregnancy. You just do. You put yourself under so much pressure, but exercise itself does not cause miscarriages.
Okay, that's good to know. And what cautions should we be aware of around pregnancy and exercise? Because I know, for example, from a certain phase of the pregnancy, we need to work our abs, for example, in a different way.
So the precautions are the main precautions throughout the whole pregnancy are to make sure that your body is coping with the exercise. So listening to the signs your body's giving you. So if you are not recovering well, you feel, you're exhausted, you can't get through the workout, then perhaps your intensity is too high, you're doing too many workouts a week, you're not prioritizing rest enough. Hydration, you want to make sure that you're not overheating. Obviously, you in Dubai, making sure you're not exercising in the midday sun. We're in any sun right now at this time of year. Making sure that you're just not overheating your body, because whatever temperature you are, your baby is warmer than that, and they can't regulate their own temperature, so you need to do that for them. So making sure that you're drinking plenty of water, all the normal stuff, eating the right foods, making sure that you've got the fuel. Then in terms of actual exercise, in the beginning, when you haven't really got a bump yet, you can continue as usual. When the bump starts to pop out, which will be different for everyone and in every pregnancy, then you want to start to adapt the exercises to make sure the core isn't being put under too much extra pressure. So that might be dropping to your knees in a plank or a press up, stopping doing the double leg crunching workouts like hanging leg lifts, sit-ups, crunches, those kind of things. But they'll start to feel not right for you. When you're doing them, you'll start to think, that doesn't feel quite right. And if something doesn't feel right, then there's a reason for it, and it doesn't mean that it's dangerous for your baby. The crunches aren't dangerous to your baby. They're just putting pressure on your abs, which doesn't need to be there. So starting to adapt for that. Then as the bump starts to get bigger, you'll just notice that when you squat, you're going to stand with your legs a bit wider, things like that, just so that you can physically do the exercise. So, and then obviously you're not going to be lying on your tummy because the bump is there. So that's a very big given. And then lying on your back is a real controversial one, because often we'll do glute bridges, for example. So we're in a supine position where our back is towards the floor, but we're not really on our back because our spine isn't being squashed into the floor. So those are fine. But the reason we don't want to lie on our back for too long is because as the weight of the baby pushes down on our spine, it can compress certain veins and arteries, which make us feel really breathless because it restricts the flow of blood to the heart and the baby. But if you lie on your back for 20 seconds, you can't do too much damage. But I started very early feeling very breathless lying on my back, and that's your body telling you, move over. So it's one of those things where it's okay if you're on your back for a second or two, or if you're moving from one side to the other and you go onto your back, that is fine. But we don't want to be doing chest press, things like that, lying on our back from maybe halfway or a bit earlier if you start to
Yeah.
feel the breathlessness.
Okay, good to know. And I mean, is there any reason, apart from obviously personal preference, where we should stop exercising?
No, that really is personal preference. So if you're feeling good to keep going, then great. But there's no, golden medals given out to anyone who keeps training till their due date, because I think a lot of people celebrate that, and so they should. But it makes women who don't keep training till the end feel, less than. Personally, I didn't lift weights till the end on any of my pregnancies because I just felt knackered. I
Yeah.
probably stopped lifting weights at 38 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And then, but I was lifting light weights. There was no barbells involved. They were dumbbells. They were light. I did a lot of swimming. And then I was filming my classes. So in the new pregnancy plan, we've got up to 38 weeks, weekly classes. And then you've got the final push. And in the final push section is lots of classes, but they're not week by week, because I didn't want women to think, oh, I didn't complete the plan.
Yeah.
Because there is no completing the plan. You stop when you want to stop. But in this final push, there's workouts. They're a bit shorter because, energy. And there's lots of classes where it's like preparing your body for birth. So perfect stretches to open the pelvic area and things like that. So I think you can still exercise, you can still keep moving. But if you don't want to do a CrossFit class at week 40, please don't do that. If you
Yeah.
want to, then you can, but you have to just go with what feels right for you.
And just, I mean, I was going to come on to that question about getting baby in a good position for birth, because I obsessed over this with baby number 2 because I was determined I was going to have a VBAC. And you mentioned it there. So there are different things that we can do in those final stages, stretch-wise, to kind of get the baby into a best position.
Yeah, there are. I mean, the stretches aren't going to turn a breech baby round.
No.
There are things you can do, but my classes are not designed to do that. I mean, it might happen, but they're not designed for that. But you can encourage the baby's head to like lodge deeper down into the pelvis. You want, right now I'm sitting with my legs crossed. You wouldn't want to do that in the last stages of pregnancy because it's closing everything. You want to be as unladylike as you possibly can and like encourage, the openness in the pelvic area and the pelvis. So yeah, there are things you can do, but there's also things to make sure that when it comes to giving birth, your body's feeling supple and loose, and you can get into the positions you want to. Because the last thing you want to do is get to birth and you've got DOMs in the legs because you've been lifting such heavy weights. You feel sore, so you can't possibly hold, a squat position if that's the way you want to push the baby out. Or, you want to make sure that you're feeling strong but loose by the end.
Yeah, and I mean that's actually a very good point, because again, something that I personally am really terrible at is doing any form of stretching or kind of slow exercise, yoga and things like that. I mean, how important is that part of the actual exercise process?
Well, I'm like you. I really struggle. If I'm going to save some time for exercise, I want to go all out on a sweat. I
Okay,
want to be lifting weights, and that's what I love. I'm not a yoga gal or
me
Pilates,
neither.
really. There are Pilates and yoga classes on the course, and loads of people love them. But if they're not for you, they're not for you, which is why I've done stretch classes that are 10 minutes. So that I did because I had to film them. It was a
Mhm.
great way of me actually doing them, and it really did help. What I need to do is do them now because postnatally I've not made enough time to do them, and I feel so tight. But I think it is important to stretch. You don't have to do a whole 10-minute class. You could just stretch whilst you're reading your kids a story at night, or you could just do a stretch here, a stretch there. It doesn't have to be a real commitment, but stretching is important. And in terms of the yoga, if you're feeling like you're very highly strung and you're feeling really stressed and your cortisol levels
Yeah.
are high, that's the kind of thing that can really help your mental side of things. But if you don't love yoga, then don't do yoga. I remember one client saying to me, oh, I'm pregnant now, so I guess I need to start doing Pilates. It's like, no, you don't need to do anything that you don't want to do. But Pilates is great if you're pregnant, but only if you want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And what about exercise that assists with back and joint pains? Because obviously so many people experience sore backs or pelvic girdle pain or sciatica or anything like that. Is there anything that we should be doing or avoiding if we're kind of getting into those territories where we're getting...
Well, you'll see in the classes, I have pelvic girdle pain a lot, don't I? Actually,
Yeah,
probably after 17 weeks, I get it more. So in all the classes, I give options. So if you've got pelvic girdle pain, maybe try this, maybe don't do this one. And same with back pain. And I say, oh, that's not hurting, that's not feeling too good on my back, so I'm going to try this one. Copy me if you want to do this. So there's always options. And it goes that without saying, if it's so bad, then don't do the class. But there are so many benefits for moving in terms
yeah.
of lessening the back pain. So loads of the stretch classes are for that specific thing. But staying strong around your joints is really helpful for back pain, pelvic girdle pain. Pelvic girdle pain is a funny one because it's a lot about how the body's handling the pregnancy, and it's often not because you're weak or whatever. You can help it by activating the glutes in a certain way, various adaptations. But some people get it, some people don't, and it's just a real bugger because if you get it, it's really sore. But for me, some weeks I had it, some weeks I didn't, and the second I gave birth, it was gone. So you can help it along the way, but I wouldn't say there's classes that you can do to prevent it completely.
Okay. And then just coming back to the abs, obviously you mentioned that you get to a point where you want to stop doing kind of your leg raises and your crunches. But I know it's important that we also need to try and keep our core strong-ish during pregnancy. Is there anything that we can do to keep our core strong? And
Yeah,
I always say this wrong. Diastasis.
diastasis. Yeah,
Diastasis.
there's loads you can do to keep your core strong. And actually, most things we do with the weights classes that you've been doing on the plan are working the core. For example, if I do a squat and I say just hold one dumbbell, just one, not two, the fact that we're then balancing our body so that that one dumbbell doesn't pull us down is working our core. So we definitely do core exercises in the classes. We do a lot of modified planks and loads of things that are just for the core. But
Yeah.
actually, everything we do in there, I've designed it so that the core is working to stabilize the body, because the part of the core you want to be strong is that deep, deep, deep core, which you can't see anymore because the bump is growing. So you don't necessarily feel it. You don't get that same satisfactory sore abs the next morning. It's much more gentle, but you'll notice it later down the line when you're giving birth, when you're recovering, that you have kept your core strong. So it's worth changing your mindset, and we're not doing like ab exercises anymore. Your core is from your belly button all the way around to your spine. It's like the whole middle of your body, and we work on it loads. You must be sick of me telling you when to breathe in and breathe out already by the classes, but it's so important. If you exhale at a certain point, then you're engaging the core to help you with the exercise. We work it constantly. So it's just because we're not doing crunches doesn't mean we're not doing core.
And then in terms of what was I going to say? Like running and, more like high intensity exercises. People want to keep doing them, but are struggling. Is there a way that we can kind of bring it down? So like interval running, maybe walk a bit, run a bit, or is there anything you suggest mixing things in with the cardio, just so you feel like you're keeping a bit of your old self, if that's something that you really love?
Well, it depends what you mean by struggling. So if you're struggling because it's not feeling comfortable, it's painful, then I would say that form of exercise isn't working for you. So if you're running and you feel any sort of pain in your joints, you feel pain in your tummy, of course, in your pelvis, then I'd say probably running is not going to be the one for you right now. But you could do the same kind of interval session on a bike, for example. You could still get that cardio going. If you mean struggling by you're just tired, you haven't got the energy, or you're feeling sick, then you can change up the intensity. You could maybe go walk, run, walk, run. So it's different. If you're feeling pain, then your body just isn't loving it. Personally, my body didn't love running at all in the whole pregnancy. I ran a couple of times at the beginning, but I just got like achy down low in my tummy, and I was just like, it's not worth it. So I did a lot of cycling, a lot of like spinning. So you could keep that endorphin rush going
Yeah.
in a different way. But just the pregnancy isn't a long time in the grand scheme of your life. I know it feels long now, but if you just need to stop running for now, just do it. You'll be back to it, I promise. But if the longer you push through, the harder it is going to be to get back to it the other side.
And then before we start to wrap up today, Charlie, obviously we've talked a lot about these incredible pregnancy plans that you've recently released, and then your gym program workouts as well. Is there anything else new that you need to tell us about, or anything that's on the horizon that you might want to just slip in whilst we're chatting?
Yes, so actually something is coming out this week. So by the time this is out, it'll be out already. We have been busy filming a 0 to 6 week guide. So I get a lot of messages from women who they are like, I'm waiting for my 6 week GP appointment, because generally we don't recommend exercising till 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But loads of women feel great before then. And they're like, can
Yeah.
I just get on my spin bike? I'm like, no, no, no. You can do some stuff, but not that. And then loads of women have like, oh, I really want to do stuff, but I still feel this, I still feel that. So we've created this guide with me, a physio, and a nutritionist. And
Amazing.
it's so brilliant. It's not like a guide you've got to follow in any order. It's just a whole host of information videos. Some of them are mental health, me talking about the things you might be feeling and it's okay and I'm with you and we're doing this. Then me and the physio, Claire Bourne, who I think you've had on here, we talk about all the stuff like night sweats, bleeding, constipation, all the stuff like that you might not be talking with your friends about, just to know that it's okay. Then we go through pelvic floor, we go through some core breath work, we go through some lovely stretching, and then the nutritionist will talk about all the nutrients that are really good for breast milk or for energy or to help you sleep and all these kind of things. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'm going to be adding stuff to the postnatal plan in the coming weeks. But there's something for you from the second you find out you're pregnant all the way through to the birth. Then you've got your 0 to 6 weeks and then the postnatal plan. And we basically got you for years. We'll help you for whatever stage you're in.
I love this. I love this. Honestly, I found the pregnancy plan so incredibly helpful. And I will link obviously everything in the show notes. So if any of you want to find out more, please do check it out. And then Charlie, as always, before we say goodbye, we always ask for one tip and one product based on anything to do with exercise, fitness, pregnancy, birth. Give it to us.
I think because of where I'm at the moment, I'm not going to do exercise. I'm going to do a pregnancy, a newborn one. So my one tip is to, I know it's so general, but like do what works for you. So you get advice thrown at you left, right and center, whether you're looking for it online, whether you're asking people, whether you're not asking and they give it to you, whatever works for you and your baby, as long as it's safe, is what works. And you need to go for it and don't apologize to anybody, just do it. So I'm co-sleeping with Darcy this time round. I never did that with the boys. It seems to be working much better. I can side lying feeding her. I never could do that with the boys and it's working well for us. It didn't last time. So you have to just take off all expectations and go with what's working for you. And then the product, it's 2 products. I'm going to have to bunch them together. But basically, for the buggy naps, she naps in the buggy, in the house, out the house. She's always in the blooming buggy because she's the 3rd child. Is a portable white noise machine and the Rocket. And I'm sure people have recommended the Rocket. And I feel like I don't know how people parent without those 2 things. They're amazing. They're constantly on charge, back on the buggy, on charge, back on the buggy because I'm terrified of them running out of battery. But yeah, worth every penny. Rocket is what I give to lots of my friends when they have their babies because I'm just like, it's a game changer. You don't have to rock the buggy anymore. Yeah, so those are my 2 products.
Oh, and Charlie, for anyone who wants to reach out, say hi, find you, ask any questions, where can they find you?
So I've got 2 Instagram pages. At Bumps and Burpees is all the fitness workout stuff that you could ever need on there, and all the information about the plans and stuff on there too. But my DMs are like full of people chatting away, telling me, I'm not sure what plan to do. So if you're not sure, then come in there and ask me anything. And then I've got more motherhood stuff on at Charlie Launder, where I tell you the chaotic life I have and what we do and how we do it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Charlie. And as always, everybody, please feel free to rate, review, subscribe. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave us a little comment and you can find us on Mother Tongue. Us on Instagram at We Are Mother Tongue. Charlie, until baby number 4, I guess.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting us today,
Thank
and we'll speak to you
you.
very soon.
Bye.
Okay, wait there. I just need to.